Okay, Nirali, uh, I will have to work on that. I don't have those handy, the MCQs for other subjects, but I think the faculties for other subjects will be in a better position to help you there. As regards this subject is concerned, I'm going to share, like I promised in the class also, I'm going to share MCQs, 50, 60 MCQs which I have created. So maybe by end of day or tomorrow morning max, I will be uploading the same in the drive. Plus the PPT for the last chapter also, I think it's not there. So that also I will be uploading today. On the ICICI login, no, so today is the last lecture. ICICI login, I think you will have to create a login ID password using your student registration number, and you will be able to access the mock question papers which are there. I think you can access it. Okay. So link remains the same, guys. So I will be uploading some MCQs. Akansha, conceptual clarity will help you, but when it comes to factual data, then you will have to remember the facts given. Okay, I will share the drive link once again. Guys, please keep that handy because I'm going to share few MCQs in the next week also so that you can benefit from that. So that way I would say keep it handy. Mock test user ID password is ICSI. That I don't know. It's completely my pleasure, Shanti. Thank you so much. Just a second, I'm sharing the link. Please save this link till exams. I'm not going to delete any content from there, but definitely I will be adding a few content and I will put a date also when I'll upload it so that you can easily check that. And so here is the link. Okay. Yeah, yesterday's PDF, I haven't, I also realized that it's not there, Anam. So I will upload it today. Within the business environment, a lot of facts are given. It's very difficult to go through. Okay, 5-year plan also is not there. What I'll do, guys, I will check all the content on the drive once again and all the missing content because I have created few more PPTs that I will also upload it. So maybe you can check it sometime during the day around 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. You can check it. Yeah. So link of the PDF once again for all of you. One question is types of price elasticity. Okay. So price elasticity, let's take it up once again. Okay. So price elasticity is, okay, thank you, Grace. I think I will share this with all. National income, okay, we'll revise it. Okay, so let's talk about price elasticity. Price elasticity is basically the study of how much the demand in a product will change if there is a change in the price of a commodity. That's what we call it as a price elasticity. Then there is income elasticity, which measures what will be the impact in the quantity demanded of a product if the consumer's income has undergone a change. Third, we are also going to check cross elasticity. Cross elasticity means how much will be the impact in the demand of a product due to the change in the price of a related product. So when you study these impact on the quantity demanded, that change when measured is known as elasticity. Now, as we had discussed earlier, in some cases the impact will be huge. In some cases, there may not be any impact. Now, hence this study becomes important because if a product does not respond to a price change, in that situation, it is not advisable for the businessman to work on the pricing because the demand is not going to fluctuate because of the change in the pricing. Now, when we measure this impact, the responses can be of five types. First, if the price is changed by 10% and the demand for a product also changes by the 10%, which means the pricing of a product and its demand work in perfect correlation. This kind of elasticity where exactly same is the impact in the quantity demanded, that is what we call it as unitary elasticity. Second, when we see the change in price as 5% and the quantity demanded increases or changes by 15%. So 5% is the change in price and the response or the impact on quantity demanded is more than that, which means product responds better to the change in pricing. In such situation, it is called as relatively elastic. If change in price is 10% and the impact on quantity demanded is less than 10%, in that situation, the response is not that good. That is the situation we call it as relatively inelastic demand. There are some products who does not respond at all to change in prices. Consumers are not going to go and buy more or reduce their consumption if the prices have undergone a change. When this is a situation, it's called as perfectly inelastic demand. So product has no elasticity with respect to price. The demand is not going to change. And the last scenario possible is a slight change in price and the quantity demanded increased substantially. In that situation, we call it as the product has perfect elasticity to price. So these are the five types of elasticity. The same remains with the consumer's income when we study the impact on quantity. Now let's study national income. I think there are few questions on national income. GDP. Okay, so let's discuss the concepts of national income. So national income, as we had discussed earlier, it's a very important measure which shows quite a few of insights to the nation. And because the concept is similar, yeah, I will take that also. Because the concept is similar and has to be uniform at a global level, so elasticity of income, when you study the impact of change in consumers' income to the change in quantity demanded, in that situation, it's called as income elasticity. And the responses, the possible responses to change in income, yes, is possible responses to change in income are same. So there will be the same five kind of responses. Now, as regards national income is concerned, so first chapter, I think it's very easy. Rest of the concepts you can go through it. In case you guys have any issues still with any part of the first chapter, put it in the chat box. We'll see if we can take that also. National income is from that perspective very important because of all the chapters I have seen students find it a little difficult to understand and grasp the concepts in this chapter. Plus, the content of this chapter also uh, needs conceptual clarity. So, unless you have conceptual clarity, you might get confused uh, in the calculation of the aggregates. So, hence, this from all that perspective, it is a little important chapter, I would say. So there are three methods to calculate national income. Why it has to be calculated, that's very important, and we have discussed that at a global level the methods are same because then it becomes easy for the countries to compare how a country is performing. Now, when it comes to measurement of national income, the concept is based on the circular flow of income in the economy, and wherever you tap a particular channel in the circular flow, you are going to get the same output. So if you tap the uh, if you tap the flow of production, that is the goods which are produced in the businesses, in the firms, final goods, that is one channel to tap. Second channel which can be tapped is when that income from firms flows to the individuals or households. That becomes one channel. Third is when the income, when the households and individuals spend their income for buying the goods and services or for their savings when they deposit the money with the bank. So when there is a outflow from individuals, that becomes one channel. When there is an inflow to the individuals and firms, that becomes second channel. And the third channel where it can be tapped is the utilization of resources by the firms and the businesses to generate the commercial activity, economic activity by producing goods and services. So accordingly, there are these three methods. And because the circular flow of income concept says wherever you tap, whichever channel you tap, the output is going to be the same because what comes in only goes out. Now, let's talk about the aggregates. So here in these real income we'll take it. Now GDP, the most important and basic aggregate which is calculated in a country is the gross domestic product. Now why the word gross? So let's say last year in the final goods produced, there were certain assets also which were created, and those goods have a lifetime of more than 1 year. Similarly, there are certain goods which have a longer life and they serve the purpose or their utilization lasts for more than 1 year. Now, when you calculate the income or the national output, some part of your income has to be allocated for replacing the asset. That's what the concept of depreciation is. So if I have invested today in a asset, let's say 1 lakh rupees I have spent, and that 1 lakh rupee asset is going to help me generate economic activity for next 5 years, which means after 5 years I will again need 1 lakh rupees to buy an asset. So the better way to do is every year I set aside 20,000 rupees so that at the end of 5 years I have 1 lakh rupee to replace my asset. And that's the reason a depreciation is charged, because depreciation results in more cash profit and less net profit. When you calculate net profit, you deduct depreciation. So your books will show that you have earned profit, but it is less by 20%. And in cash balance, you will have 20,000 because depreciation is a non-cash expense. And that's why depreciation is important. Similarly, from the nation's perspective also, lot of money goes in creation of asset. So, and out of that output, some is going to be utilized in replacement. So we need to set aside the depreciation. But let's first understand how much is the gross output of which we will deduct the depreciation and understand how much is the net addition in the national output. And therefore, the depreciation is deducted from gross to net calculation. So gross domestic product gives an idea that what is the total value of output in a country during the year. And second, it's a domestic product. So the jurisdiction, so the goods manufactured and final services produced within the domestic territory of the country will be considered for the calculation. So if a company, let's say Reliance, has a subsidiary in Singapore, and there they have a factory also where some production is done. Now that value of goods which are produced in an overseas jurisdiction, which is owned and controlled by a person resident in India, will not be considered in GDP because we are focusing here on the domestic territory of a country. So this aggregate helps the nation to understand how much is the economic activity generated or economic output generated within the country. When this is the approach, it is called as domestic product. Now this aggregate can be calculated at two price levels, one at market prices and second at factor cost. Now difference between market price and factor cost is factor cost does not include the cost of government because government is not a factor of production. What are the factors of production? Land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurs. So their cost is added in the calculation. But when the market price method or calculation has to be done, we need to add the cost paid to the government, which means the taxes. So in the factor cost calculation, we calculate the GDP, which considers the cost of factors of production, which is land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurs, which is rent, wages, interest, and profit. So the difference between factor cost and market price is, I think, indirect taxes is what gets added in the factor cost. But then government also provides a subsidy. So the subsidy which is received reduces the factor cost. Hence that has to be deducted and the indirect taxes levied has to be added. So the difference between factor cost and market price will be the net indirect taxes, which is after giving effect to the subsidies. Now, each of the aggregate here can be calculated by the three methods which we have discussed. So product, income, or expenditure method. Because in each of the methods, the approach is different, but the valuation, the calculation will come out the same. Clear? So GDP at factor cost is net value added plus depreciation, or GDP at factor cost is when the indirect taxes is not considered. As it is factor cost, it will include all the cost of factors of production. Now, factors of production means land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurs. So, operating surplus here is the profit which is earned by the entrepreneur. In that case, because we are calculating the factor cost, the profit which goes to the entrepreneur also get added. Hence, the operating surplus here is nothing but a profit of the business firms which gets earned, accrued to the entrepreneurs. Clear? So that's why it gets considered here. So if we read the last paragraph here, it will give a lot of clarity. Conceptually, GDP at factor cost and market, GDP at market price must be identical. This is because the factor cost, which is payment to factors. So always remember the factors are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurs. Of producing goods must be equal to final value of goods and services at market price. However, the market value of goods and services is different from the earnings of factors of production. In GDP at market price, indirect taxes are included and subsidies by the government are excluded. Therefore, in order to arrive at GDP at factor cost, indirect taxes are subtracted and subsidies are added to the GDP at market price. Now, once you have calculated GDP, from there you have to calculate NDP, which is net domestic product. The difference is only the depreciation. So what you will do, the net output of economy during the year, you will reduce the depreciation from the gross output, because the depreciation is what you have set aside for replacement of the assets. So that's going for a different purpose, replacement. Hence, let's focus on what is the net value added to evaluate the performance. Now, in the economy, we have seen that one factor which changes the dynamics, or which is a very important factor, is inflation. Inflation impacts the market prices or price index in the economy. And another factor which works is the value of rupee. Now, value of rupee reduces over a period of time. The value of 10,000 rupees today will not be the same after 10 years. Today, what I can purchase in 10,000, after 3 years, the product may cost me 15,000. So the inflation changes the price level. So if the output of a country in terms of volume is the same, but because of inflation, the monetary calculation of the output gives me a data which is higher than the calculation of the previous years. And if the increase or the appreciation is because of inflation, then the measures which are calculated may give a wrong impression. Hence, when we calculate GDP, we also calculate real GDP. So nominal GDP is when you calculate at current level prices, you understand, okay, what is the output, and nominal GDP. But when you discount the inflation, when you discount the impact of price changes because of inflation, by calculating the same output at the prices of a particular year, which is considered as a base year because then the inflation rate was not high. So when you calculate the same aggregate at that year's price level, and then when you compare, so you understand how much is the actual output or actual increase in the output, and how much of the increase which I am seeing is because of the impact in the price level index. So that is what we call it as real GDP. And when you compare the both, you calculate a factor called deflator. So the difference between real and nominal GDP, the variation, the variance, is what we call it as GDP deflator. Clear? So this is the formula. Numerator will have nominal GDP. So link it NN, numerator nominal, and denominator will have real GDP. Okay, now let's personal income. Okay, let's take that also. And okay, let me check the chat box. Some messages have come. Disposable income we'll discuss. Sir, please reply. No, disposable income, I'll take it. In the real GDP formula, base year will be 100 or it changes. So base will be 100. Diagram is important. See, you must understand how the diagram has been created. If you understand the concept properly and how the diagram has been calculated, then it's very easy for you to give an answer. In private income, why social security and profits are deducted? So we'll take that also. What about data in financial market and business environment? Please let us mark the important points. Okay, let me go to that chapter and I'll tell you. Technical session, I think, will be in WebEx only, not in Zoom. Different sectors of economy has to be memorized. Understand them and you don't need to memorize, is what I feel. Real income and per capita income. Okay. Which chapter is important? And all the chapters are important. It won't be right to say that this is more important. We don't know the weightage which examiner give because this is the first exam which will be happening. So really, without any precedence, it's very difficult. Plus, in a professional course, okay, technical queries, I think, with respect to how the exam is going to be conducted, do's and don'ts, I suggest you to attend the session which is there today. I think for that purpose, please do that because I'm not the right person. I don't have the insider information for that. Calculators, again, as you put it as a question in the session in the afternoon. Okay. Yes, Keshni, I will tell you. Wait for me to go to that chapter. Balance of trade, okay, I will discuss. Net factor income is same as X minus M. No, so net factor will have much more things because it's all, for all the factors of production. I'll explain you that. Okay, I think mutual fund related one question is there. In India, UTI or State Bank, it's quite confusing for me. Who launched? So the first mutual fund in India was a US 64 scheme, but the first mutual fund, non-UTI mutual fund in India was State Bank of India. Second MCQ of first chapter, answer given there is wrong. Okay, let me check that. Paper will be easy or difficult. If you are prepared well, it will be easy. If not, then you may find it difficult. It's very subjective here. Yes, full form dates important. How to prepare chapter 4 and 5 as it's too much of statistical data. Should we? So no more links. Whatever content is there, I have posted on the drive only. Anam. Values. So see, not all values will have to be remembered. It's humanly impossible to remember all that data. But whatever is more important, so let's go to that chapter and I'll tell you from my perspective that is important. Indirect taxes is the GST the government charges, the revenue which government charges, and the tax whose burden is passed on to the. Yes, Charlie, I will upload that document today. Plus one more PPT for MCQs for your practice. I will upload today. You can check the drive somewhere around 4 o'clock. By that time, it will be there. Okay, now let me close the chat box and discuss the questions. So, gross domestic product once calculated, then we calculate gross national product. So the net income from abroad is the difference between domestic and national product. It is the income which has been earned outside India and the difference between the income earned outside India by the people who belongs to the nation minus the income earned in India by the foreign residents or persons resident outside India. Now that difference is what we call it as net income earned from abroad. So if there are more foreign exchange inflows in the nation for the exports of goods, services, or let's say someone went outside India, executed a project, earned a revenue, then came back to India. So that is an inflow minus the outflow to the foreign residents for services or goods imported. If you have invested outside India for creation of an entity, that is not an outflow which money belongs to the foreign national. It's your investment, but it is just parked outside India. So not every outflow outside India, which is in foreign currency or foreign exchange, will impact the net income. We are focusing on income, not assets. So that calculation is the difference. So if the income earned by foreign residents from India is more than the income earned by person residents in India outside the Indian jurisdiction, then we will have a negative income earned from abroad. But if we have earned more, then there will be positive. Now let's go to the domestic income. So national income we have calculated, let's say, which is net national product at factor cost. Now from national, you again have to go back to domestic income. So only difference in the calculation will be that you will exclude the net income earned from abroad and you will come to know the domestic income. Once you have calculated the domestic income and now you wish to calculate private income. Now, what is private income? It's an income obtained by private individuals, private sector from any source, productive or otherwise. But in the national income calculation, you only consider that income which is from an economic activity and not otherwise. So that's the difference. Hence, the calculation of private income will include transfer payments which are otherwise not included in the calculation of national income, because in national income we don't consider the income generated which is not from a economic activity, which means where there is no contribution in the national output. It is just a transfer of income from one hand to another hand that gets excluded. Similarly, interest on public debt also is paid by government to, just a second. It is paid by the government to private sector. So if we see the impact of in the national income, it is just like a transfer payment from one hand to another hand. For someone, it's an expense, for someone, it's an income. So it gets nullified. But for private income, we calculate income from all the sources. Hence, this also gets added. Social security is if I have paid from my income for my retirement benefits, for my social security, then it's an outflow. Hence, this has to be deducted. And profits and surplus of public undertakings. So public undertakings belongs to government, not to private. Hence, that also has to be deducted from the national income because it was included earlier. Now, from private income, I have to go to the personal income. Personal income is the income received by individuals of a country. So from the difference between private and personal is, in private you consider the income from private enterprises also, which are owned by private enterprises. In personal income, you consider only the individuals of a country, not the companies or firms. So in this case, the difference of in the calculation will be, from private income, you will reduce the income which is earned by private sector but not distributed to individuals, because ultimately the businesses are owned by individuals only. So if a company has earned profit, it belongs to the owner, but if the firm has not distributed that profit, it is still with the firm, not with the individual. Hence that is calculated. So personal income differs from private income in that it is less than later because it excludes undistributed corporate profits. Now, last aggregate is disposable income. So disposable income means from my income which I have earned, what I am going to pay as a tax to the government is an outflow. Remaining I can use for whatever purpose I want. If I want to spend, I will spend. If I want to save, I will save. I can do whatever is what I think is okay after I have paid my statutory liabilities to the government. So disposable income means your personal income of an individual minus the tax liability, which is a statutory liability on. Now what remains, so in the companies also, when a person is given a salary, company deducts the tax amount, so TDS is deducted and you are paid salary. Now what you get in hand is your choice how you want to spend, which means your disposable income is actually what you get in hand. So how you come to that, you deduct the tax liability and you calculate your disposable income. Another approach to calculate is my all the expenditures plus all my savings put together is what I had to spend. So that is another way of calculating the disposable income. Real income we discussed, when you discount the impact of inflation and the price level changes in calculation of the aggregate, it becomes a real income. Otherwise, it's a nominal income. Okay, third chapter is very easy, very uh, not that complex. We have already discussed all the uh, terminologies in detail. If you have any challenges in understanding, I think we discussed this at length, and all the videos of the sessions are available on the YouTube channel. So please visit the channel, go through the video once again, and still if you have any doubts or question, you can always write to me on email. There are a couple of emails which are with me for reply. I will share that, share my response by end of the day today. Now, is balance of trade is a calculation which an RBI does to understand what is the difference between the exports from the country and imports into the country. So the export minus import is what we will get as a balance of trade. No, this table need not be remembered. See, what I understand at least, an examiner is more interested to see have you understood the concepts properly. Plus, do you remember some of the important data? Now, what happened few years ago, if it was a milestone, then it's an important data. If not, then it's not an irrelevant information for me to remember. It is what my approach is. So balance of trade is that, and balance of payment. Yeah, so net exports is kind of balance of trade, and it includes both export and import of goods and services, including technology, technical fees. If you import a technology and pay technical fees for the technical know-how, that also gets considered. But in the balance of payment calculation, other than exported imports, which is a current account, we also consider the impact on the foreign exchange assets and foreign exchange liabilities of the nation and any variation in the valuation or exposure. So capital and financial account also is considered when you calculate the balance of payment. And the simplest example I can give you to understand the concept is, if I have made an investment outside India and whose value has increased, which means whenever I will bring that money back to India, India will have more foreign exchange inflow. But if the value has gone down, the foreign exchange inflow to country will reduce. So I have to consider the change in the valuation of a asset outside India, as well as I have to consider the valuation of an asset in India which belongs to the foreigner, which is a liability for the nation. So what is going to be the impact on the foreign exchange reserves is what the purpose of calculation is. Excuse me. Okay. Financial markets, I think all the factual data which is relevant and important, in my opinion, I have tried to cover it in the presentation I have created. Plus, you can also check the latest data on the government portal. Some of the websites you can use it are Make in India, which has very updated statistical data about the progress in the nation. A very beautiful website created, so you can refer that site also. Then there is a site called India Brief. If you can search IBEF is a site. You can just search it for all the different sectors. You will get latest information there. But again, as I said, don't focus on that too much by compromising your studies of the study material provided. That is advisable once you have done your preparation with the module, and now you have time to go through other reference material, because at this point of time it is not advisable to put your hands in multiple buckets. What is in your hand, which is the basic material, is you should be confident about. So this is it. Let me check the chat box. Important data, Yashni, I think you can refer the PPT. I have captured that in the PPT. It has important data. Consolidated fund. So in the budgeting, consolidated fund is the fund which is used for all the drawals made by the government for demand for grant, for uh, the appropriation bill. So it's a main fund, main uh, in the financial statement, as we discussed, there were three parts in the budget: consolidated fund, contingency fund, and public account. Now, contingency fund is for contingencies, emergencies. Public account is the money which belongs to the public, hence government cannot touch it. And the last fund which remains for all the expenses, all the expenditures which government has to do, they use the consolidated fund for that. 5-year plans you will have to study. All chapters PPT not. I will reconcile my data with the drive and I will update that by 4 o'clock today. For foreign portfolio investment. So foreign portfolio investment is so there are two types of investment: direct investment and portfolio investment. Portfolio investment means when an investment is done with an intention to earn return on the investment and not with the intention to exercise control over the affairs of the organization, that investment is called as a portfolio investment. Material is good enough to score good marks, yes. Okay. uh, I have uploaded the link of the Google Drive. I have shared that with this group. I'm going to upload the data on that drive only. In the At the start of the session also, I have posted the drive link, and I request once again all of you to keep this handy with you. Okay, let me paste it once again here. Yeah. Thank you, Vaishnav. And please have this link handy, save it somewhere so that you don't lose it. My Gmail ID, okay, I will share that, my email ID. This is my email ID. You can post your questions to me there. Mutual fund page 58. Okay, let me go through that page number 58. Okay, 58. So for this section, I think I have created a one slide which covers the 5 phases. I think for that mutual fund part, if you refer what I have shared in the PPT, I think that's good enough. You don't need to read everything. I have captured that in the same PPT. So have that PPT slide in front of you and then read it. It will be easy for you to revise in future. Okay. Second question of the first chapter. Okay, let's go there. Okay. So debentures is nothing but a acknowledgement given by a company for the debt taken. And there are multiple types of debentures: bearer, secured, redeemable, irredeemable, convertible, non-convertible. If a loan is convertible into equity, it's a convertible debentures. So, Ruchi, I can understand the struggle in the remembrance of the data given, and it's very difficult to point it out also that please study this, relieve this, because if it's given in the module, you never know what the examiner is going to ask. So better is to come out with a strategy to remember the data. And something which has helped me always is when I create my mind maps, when I create a tree diagram, anything pictorially represented which can be referred in future, I think it's the best way to remember this kind of data. And sometimes you cannot really answer a question that what can be excluded from the curriculum. So as a teacher, it's really difficult for me to tell you that. Especially, we haven't seen what type of questions are coming in this CSEET exams. Had it there been a precedence, maybe we could have formed a judgment. But at this point of time, it's really difficult to form any judgment on that. Okay, pardon me for that. Maybe few attempts down the line. A service or a commodity has perfect elasticity if a given quantity of it can be supplied, whatever might be its price. Yeah. So what's the question here? I don't. Okay. Maybe you can write your doubt to me because I am not understanding. So as regards the question is concerned, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Now I understand. It will be inelastic. Yes, because the price has no impact on the supply. That's why. Yeah. Okay. So thank you guys. I think it's time for us to sign off. It was really a wonderful experience to have these discussions with you. Be rest assured that whatever I have committed, I will be uploading on the drive by 4 o'clock. You can check it. And every couple of days, I may upload an MCQ for your practice. So please check the drive frequently to see if there are any updates for you. And I wish you all the very best. May all of you get success in this attempt. And I hope you would have found these sessions useful. Thanks to the Chat Institute for giving me this opportunity. And I really pray that all of you get success in the exams. Thank you so much and God bless you. Yeah, stay safe. Take care, guys. Stay blessed. Bye.